What's going on, everybody? Welcome in Wager Alarm live stream. That's right. I'm Howard Bender, your host. With me, of course, Craig Mish. Time to get down and dirty here for Friday's games. Now, yesterday's live stream for the NCAA tournament, you can go back, you can watch that if you want to see what kind of action you want to lay on the Thursday's games. We've got that, and there's also a post over on wageralarm.com that you'll want to check out. And our man Dan Servadidio also made some picks that you'll want to take a look at as well. In the meantime, today it's all about Friday's action. That's right. Go and skip work tomorrow and enjoy the games. This
Definitely.
one's for Friday. Are you calling out sick again, Craig? Are you calling out sick? You told me you were gonna.
Yeah, so tomorrow tomorrow I decided that because I haven't had a chance to watch the full first round and second round of the tournament because we've been traveling to New York for the last few years for Tout Wars, that I'm really going to be able to watch all of it. So I am excited to see all of the games, and I really, other than my radio show and taping a podcast, I really don't have that much going on. In fact, I think that my busiest time is going to be Friday because we're going to be doing, I believe, another live stream with the Major League Baseball futures. I got to check that. I think we are. So
Yes, we are.
Okay, we are. I know that. I know they just came out yesterday, so I got to dive in now to that. But it's an exciting time of the year. I haven't done all my brackets yet. I'm going to have to pound these out tonight. I did one, and I'm going to have to do at least one more before the morning. And then there's this like crazy Survivor one that I saw that I have to take a look at also, where you get to pick two teams in each round. And as long as you hit one out of the two, you get to move on to the next. It's a little confusing. But either way, some really solid plays, I think, for Friday to go over. So we'll knock those out here on this edition of the Friday NCAA Tournament live stream. And then we'll be back next week to do the Sweet 16.
Exactly. Now, let me just ask you here before we dive into the games and we start giving our leans on the overs and the unders or taking a team. I just want to talk to you a second about the brackets because one of the things that we were kind of talking about yesterday, which I don't necessarily know was fully clear to everybody, as far as when you're picking your brackets, if you're going for the $1 million tournament, is this no different than a DFS contest where you need to have that contrarian pick to win? Because you were saying 49% of the brackets have Duke winning the whole thing. Yeah. So if you're looking to win the whole thing, you shouldn't have Duke in your bracket. Now the question is why? What if Duke wins the entire tournament?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of factors. First of all, I believe the number is about 87% of all brackets have them in the Final Four, Howard. Mm-hmm. So every single person that has a bracket is picking Duke. And it's just the law of averages. There are so many games in this tournament in the field of 64 that the odds of you getting every one of these right is slim. So when you get to the end, if you are a few points behind the person for placing, or what we would say cashing, I guess, in DFS, and you end up having Duke, and the person that's ahead of you has Duke, and that person ahead of you has Duke, and then you don't win. So You're much better off taking a contrarian approach, even if you end up losing, because I understand that there are people out there that want to pick the winner and want to get it right. But in the end, if that's more important to you than making money, then go ahead and take Duke to win the national title. I've done this for a billion years. It doesn't always work out that way. Could Duke win the whole thing? They certainly could. But when you're playing in a field where half the field has the winner, put two entries in and have Duke with one and have another team with another one. It's just not smart management to do it this way. And by the way, this does not apply to every year. It applies to this year because Duke is such an overwhelming favorite. Last year, while Villanova was a one seed, or they were favored to get to the Final Four, a lot of people thought Virginia was going to win the whole thing last year. They lost in the first round. So it's just better to hedge in these situations. And again, you go through professional sports. The Golden State Warriors have won a ton of titles, right? They did lose to Cleveland one year. Let's not forget that. The NBA is a little bit different. You can't pick the Super Bowl winner every year. Yeah, New England was 4 or 5 to 1, but again, they weren't even money at the beginning of the season, so you had to piece that together along all as the season goes. The World Series 2 years ago, nobody had Houston winning it all. So this is just an overwhelming favorite going into the tournament to win, and you can't pick them in your bracket unless you just want to feel at the end, hey, congrats, I picked the winner. If you're with 5 people or with 2 buddies, sure, you want to pick the very best teams. But it's no different than playing in a 50-50 where at that point, okay, I'm just looking to cash, I'll take Duke. You're playing in a big DFS tournament, you can't. You got to go the other way.
Okay, so size of tournaments that you're in,
huge factor.
Where it's of course it's a huge factor. So at what point do you say there are this many people, there are X number of people in this tournament, do not pick Duke if you want to win this tournament? Is it 100 people? Is it 200 people? Is it 50 people?
Probably 50 is a good number.
Okay.
50 is a good number. If it was 100 for me, I would have 2 entries. I would have 2 entries. But again, there's going to be everyone in the first few rounds are going to pick upsets. And the odds of you, not you, but the odds of someone out there getting all of those right is so slim. Someone in your pack of people that's participating in the bracket is going to. And if it's not you getting all of those right, it doesn't matter if you have Duke or not in the end. There's going to be someone that's going to fall into some luck with the circling of the teams and get it right. And you're going to be up against that person in the championship, and maybe you did almost as well. They have Duke, you have Duke, you lose. You do not win. That's it.
No, listen, I totally get it, and I understand the concept. It's no different than playing daily fantasy sports.
It sounds similar.
And being in a big GPP tournament, or being in a GPP tournament of 100 people and it's single entry. Then all of a sudden it becomes a little bit different of a story there. So you're saying if you're in a bracket pool, 50 people or more, you kind of want to fade Duke on the end there because you need to have some sort of a contrarian thing. If you're just in there in the office pool and it's 25 of your buddies, it's okay.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine. And again, you could still pick Duke to win a few games. There's nothing wrong with that also. As I said, I think it's more than 80% of the people in this have them in the Final Four. I mean, think about that. That's like, it's just we haven't seen a season like this in a very long time from a team like this. We've had undefeated teams. UNLV had some great years. The one that reminds me a lot of this year was when Arkansas, back in the day, Arkansas had a phenomenal team. They had Corliss Williamson, a bunch of other great players. I can't remember off the top of my head. Stacey Augmon, maybe was he on UNLV? I can't remember.
Yeah, Stacey Augmon was UNLV.
Either way, Arkansas had a fantastic team. Nolan Richardson was the head coach. I think they won every game in the regular season. They got all the way to the final, and they lost to UCLA. And UCLA was nowhere on the grid. I think they were a 2 seed. UCLA ends up, they had a miracle shot at some point. I think the point guard was Tyus Edney. That probably brings back some memories for people. Either way, UCLA ended up winning as a 2 seed. So all of that great feeling going on to the end, it's the biggest downer ever, Howard, because you're right there on the cusp. You feel so good, and then you lose, and then it's over. And it's like, wow, I just went from being first in the standings to 10th because of all these other people that moved ahead of me.
I hear you, man. I hear you. I love it. I'm in. I'm definitely in. Listen, for the office one, for the fantasy alarm group, that's a smaller group there. I'm perfectly fine using Duke at the tail end. For my ESPN one, how many ESPN brackets did you throw in for this whole?
I'll end up having $1
million.
I'll end up having 1. That's it.
And do you have a lean somewhere on who you're going?
I picked. I'm going to pick Gonzaga definitely to win all of it, because that knocks Duke out specifically in a bracket of mine. So that was a lean also. And Tennessee is another team that I'm going to have go deep.
Oh, see, I like that. Because, I have Tennessee actually going fairly deep in mine as well. But
I love Houston too, but the bracket they're playing in is so difficult. I think they have to beat Kentucky and Duke or something like that. It's Houston,
Kentucky and North Carolina.
Kentucky, North Carolina. Houston is so good. They've had a great year, and they're blowing teams out all season long. They just got such a poor draw because they lost late in the season to Central Florida. So, but I mean, UCF is playing against Virginia Commonwealth too. So we'll talk about that game as well. But yeah, Houston would be the one team to me that I think can make a deep run. And then that there'll be some 6 seed or 10 seed that's going to get deep into this thing too. South Carolina a couple of years ago, I think they were a 7 and they got to the Final Four.
Yeah, Mississippi State. How about that?
Could be.
Ooh, dark horse. In any event, all right, so I just wanted to get that bracket talk out of the way there. Make sure that people do have an understanding of what it's going to take to win, like really what it's going to take. So now let's go talk about Friday's games here. Let's just kind of run through them all, same way we
Sure.
did the other day. So by time, first game of the day on Friday, Iowa, Cincinnati. Cincinnati Bearcats favored by 3.5 here. Your thoughts on this one here?
Yeah, I mean, again, just kind of like on Thursday, and the totals are sitting in the between 130, 140 range. Nothing really jumps out in terms of that. Your lean always in those early games should be the under, especially if the spread is only 2 or 3. Those games tend to be close. They tend to be low scoring, and teams are just waking up out of bed and playing in those games. So 137.5 is the total here. Iowa is just really not that good. They're 0-5 in their last 5 games against the spread against any team that has a winning record. That is a horrible recipe for success going into this tournament. It means they can't beat anybody good. They're also 1-7 in their last 8 tournament games against the spread as well. So I'll lean the under and also on Cincinnati minus the points. I can't take Iowa here. There are some live dogs that we'll talk about today. In fact, I don't think I'll ever have as many underdogs picked against the spread in a tournament than I'll have this year. I feel like almost every dog can win, but I don't like Iowa in this game.
Okay, I said I can accept that. I'm all right with that. I'm not an Iowa fan anyway. Next
Sad.
game after. What's that?
I'm sad you're not an Iowa fan. Who is?
Are you? Are you? My buddy Ted. He's an Iowa fan.
Okay.
There you go. My brother actually is a doctor over at the University Hospital there. How about that one?
Well, then I'm rooting for Brother Bender.
There you go. If you're ever in the Iowa City area here and you need some gynecological help, go look up my brother.
I may need some.
There you go. I think you might, dude. I think you might. All right, next game: Oklahoma versus Mississippi.
Oh, tough one.
It's a -1. It's Mississippi by 1. It's 142.5 on the over or the under. I don't really particularly like this one here. Oklahoma, they struggle on offense a number of times, but then again, Mississippi's not that hot either. So lean on the under?
Yeah, probably. 2 teams backing into the tournament, not playing particularly well down the stretch. If I had to lean toward a specific team, it would be Mississippi, and I'll lean SEC over Big 12 a little bit here. I also don't love the under, but I will lean in that direction because if I have a choice between the two, I'm always going to lean toward the under in the tournament. So my lean will be under 142.5, and I would also lay the 1 point and take Mississippi just because I've seen them play a few times this year. Oklahoma's only shot here is to play that hold the ball for 35 seconds. I don't know that they're going to be able to do it in this game. So I'll take Mississippi, but I don't feel great about it.
We got a lot of these first round games where it's like, are they really going to be able to slow it down? Like, even if you're in a offense, like let's say we're going to be talking about Wisconsin a little bit, but if you're in an offensive program like that where it's like all fundamentally sound and it's really slow, how do you not just stay all amped up for the tournament and just start chucking the ball?
Listen, on Friday there's some really low totals, so I don't know what we have in store, but we're definitely going to have 2 games that Vegas expects to be dreadful. Very boring, low-scoring games. And so you have to ask yourself, I'm investing 2 hours in a game where the score is 56-54. Is that exciting or not? Some people love it. Some people don't. But I suppose the last possession of a game, anytime you have a game winner, and we're going to have that for sure tomorrow and Friday. I
agree. All right, next game there, Northern Kentucky, Texas Tech. Texas Tech favored by 13.5. You've got your notes here. It says another possible upset. I really have a hard time with that. I mean, listen, I don't have Texas Tech going far in my brackets as is, but I mean, to lose to Northern Kentucky here, you think, or is this more of just from a betting standpoint?
I think that's the key. Is that in the bracket you could go with Texas Tech. But I think if you're betting the game, you take Northern Kentucky. The total, again, is only 137, and they're 13.5-point favorites. To give you a little background on Northern Kentucky, they won the Horizon League. They're one of the best shooting teams in the country, 48.1% from the field. And Texas Tech, also a team that's not entering the tournament like they were back in February. They basically played West Virginia in the Big 12 tournament. They couldn't rebound at all, and that's one of the special things that Northern Kentucky can do. Also, Texas Tech 1-6 against the spread in their last 7 non-conference games, which means anytime they go out of the conference and they're playing a team unfamiliar, they usually don't cover. So I think they'll win, but I think it'll be a close game. I'll take Northern Kentucky plus the points.
All right. 13.5 points is a lot to give. So I like it. UC Irvine, Kansas State. K-State favored by 4.5, but I don't even listen, dude. I watched Iowa State beat K-State in New York when we were sitting there hanging out at Foley's.
Mm-hmm.
So I watched that happen there. K-State also, they lost like 2 guys to injuries right now. I'm pretty sure that's the case, where they're playing shorthanded from, who they usually have. So I know it's a low-scoring game, or it's the second lowest on the board right now at 119. I like the UC Irvine upset here. I'm definitely taking them with the points, and I kind of feel like I might go Irvine in my bracket too.
It could be, yeah. Their best player for Kansas State is Dean Wade. They lost by 4 to Iowa State in the Big 12 semis. So, I mean, not a lot of offense there to like. I followed UC Irvine a lot this season, and they ended up doing pretty well for me. They won some games in their conference against teams that you really haven't heard of, but this is a team also that's played extremely well in January, in February, and in March. In fact, their last loss, if I'm not mistaken, was to Long Beach State. You got to go all the way back to January the 16th, if I'm not mistaken. So, wow, that's a long time. I think Irvine has a chance to win this game. I think that they have a great chance to upset Kansas State. I'm just not a Big 12 guy going into the season. As you can see, I've already sided against Kansas State. Yesterday we sided against Kansas. And even Oklahoma, they could certainly beat Mississippi, but I'm not a big fan of them either. I just don't think this is their year. They didn't have a good season. And who is really the best team in that conference? I'm not sure. So I will take Irvine plus the points here. And I think Irvine could win 2 games in this tournament.
Really? Who's Irvine? Where would they go? No. Really? Because you're going to have them beating Wisconsin in the next round?
For sure.
Or Oregon?
Either.
Oh, we're going to have to talk.
All my brackets, I'll have that.
All your brackets, you'll have that?
Absolutely.
You can have that. All right. Next game here. It's actually one of your favorites. You just said it. You're a big Tennessee guy. You're going to have them go deep into the tournament for your brackets. The Volunteers are going up against Colgate, number 15 seed. Go ahead. I mean, listen, if Tennessee's your team, go ahead. Let's hear it.
Yeah, well, look, this is still a very big line. I have no idea what to expect from Colgate, okay? Colgate is not a great team in any facet. They turn the ball over a lot. They lost 10 games during the regular season. So when you're looking at records of some of these teams and you're seeing like 28-4 and 30-2, I mean, Colgate was not that great. They're a 15 seed. They haven't been to the tournament in 12 years. I don't know what happened to Tennessee in the SEC tournament, how they came up lame in the end, but I just can't take Colgate in this one. So I'm going to take Tennessee minus the points. I don't think that they lose. They certainly could only win by 15 and you'll be disappointed, but I see a blowout in this one, and I'll take the Volunteers.
And laying the points, laying the 17.5.
Yeah. Make sure that's correct still.
Yeah.
Same line.
Yeah, I believe it is. Yep. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
It is. All right. Staying in that southern bracket there. In the South, it's Gardner-Webb at Virginia. Now, Virginia's favored by 22. That's a lot, but I mean, really, is the narrative here is Virginia redemption tour for 2019 after last year's first round exit.
It better be.
Like,
they better win by 50.
This is either one of those things where they're cursed and they're just going to lose in the first round again, or they're just going to absolutely destroy Gardner-Webb.
The best are the people who are saying that, oh, you can't look at last year and Virginia's better this year. It was just a freak thing. Have they not been watching Virginia the last 10 years? I don't get this at all. Virginia is not going far in this tournament. They'll probably destroy this team. They'll probably destroy the next team. They're going to play a team in the tournament that's going to shoot lights out and beat them. And it's going to happen every year. Why is this any different than Gonzaga now being a number 1 seed when 10 years ago they were always a 7 or a 10, and Butler was always a 7 or a 10. They didn't get that respect, and now they're getting the respect. It's the same thing with Virginia. You should be disrespecting them until they prove it. How can you possibly think that they're going to get deep into this thing? I think that they'll show up and they'll beat Gardner-Webb pretty good. but there's just no way that I'm picking them in any bracket to get to the Final Four. Again, because all they have to do is run into one hot team that shoots 50% for the field from one game. Virginia cannot come back. If Virginia is down 10, they're going to lose. They have the most stifling defense in the country. Once they're up big, they go on these runs and they just don't let you come back into it and they hold the ball. But I just don't think that they're built for the Final Four and the championship. So take them in your bracket this week or on Friday. Take them in your bracket probably to get past Sunday, but they're going to lose either in the Sweet 16 or the Elite Eight. It's a wrap. And by the way, saying that Virginia did well getting to the Elite Eight, let me give you a hot tip. If you're the number 1 seed, you're supposed to get to the Final Four. That's how your season is determined, okay? If you're a 1 and you lose in the Final Four, okay, fine. But if you get to the Elite Eight and you lose, sorry, that's not what was supposed to happen.
All right, so
minus 22, we'll take Virginia in this one.
I was going to say, is that the lead? You're going to do Virginia with
We'll take Virginia in this one. We'll give them a little love, but watch them win by like 2, you know?
On the buzzer beater? Everybody loves the tournament buzzer beater.
Could be.
All right, the next game there is also in the South, and that is the game that I love the most. Because...
All right, so break it down, Howard. Break it down.
All right. No. All right, so everybody is on Oregon here. Everybody is on Oregon. And it really, to me, it makes very little sense. And I took a couple of notes here, just kind of comparing the two, because one of the things that you and I discussed when we were when we were doing the live streams for football is that when the public is always on one particular team, that's when it's time to go the other way.
It's always the wrong side. That's correct.
So here we go. So Oregon now playing in the crappy Pac-12. Crappy Pac-12. Mm-hmm. Got swept by Oregon State. Got swept by UCLA. Okay. They got blown out by USC by 17 points. They got blown out by Colorado by 22.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is Oregon. The teams that have now Wisconsin, all right, the teams that they've actually lost to are the same teams that play that style, like Virginia, Michigan. They keep it very fundamentally sound, and they slow the pace of the game down. Or they end up losing to teams like like Michigan State, like Marquette, because those teams were just so offensively they were juggernauts, just crazy high tempo, score, shooting from the 3-point line on a regular basis. Oregon, not one of those teams. They don't slow it down. They don't play fundamentally sound. They don't turn the ball over. And if you look at their numbers from 3-point land, so I mean, maybe everybody's on this because it's a 12-5 and nobody likes the style of how Wisconsin plays and it's boring to sit and watch them. But I'm sorry, man. I'm going to take Wisconsin. I'm going to take the points here. It's the lowest on the scoreboard here at 116
of any game in the tournament.
Yeah, and you know what? And I'm gonna probably lean the under. I probably won't bet the over under on this one because it's so low.
It is low.
Yeah, but I mean I could legitimately see this being like a 56-54 kind of.
Your favorite game is unwatchable.
My favorite game is 100% unwatchable, except I'm going to watch it because I'm so into this for Wisconsin.
Okay.
I really am.
Well, listen, look, it's great to have conviction toward it, and we'll follow it, and certainly it could happen. So I'll keep an eye on that. I will say that both teams are not very good, and I would expect them, whoever wins, to go down in the next round. But okay, I mean it's a fair assessment of it, and certainly we'll see. And Oregon was not a good team during the regular season. You're absolutely right. They're hot coming into the tournament, so that definitely makes them dangerous. But both of these teams do exactly the same thing. They hold the ball and pray for a bucket. That's it.
And pray for a bucket, indeed. All right. So you don't have a lean either way.
I'll go with your pick. I'll go with Wisconsin. Why not?
Stop it.
I'll stick with you.
Liberty, Mississippi State. Mississippi State's favored by 6.5 in this one here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Liberty will get 6. We'll be brief with the rest of these. We're a little short on time. Liberty getting 6.5 points. Liberty's associate head coach. Liberty's head coach was the associate head coach at Virginia, so you know exactly what kind of game they're going to be playing here. Very low-scoring game. But Mississippi State has a very good offense here. Liberty doesn't generally they don't really exude confidence in terms of the tournament. This will be one of the 5 seeds that I will take to advance and not worry about the 12 seed. I'll take Mississippi State minus points.
I like Mississippi State here as well. Is there a 12-5 that I did pick? Wait a minute.
New Mexico State?
I did take New Mexico State. I think that's the only
over
12-5
Auburn,
though that I took.
How about Murray State against Marquette?
Again, everybody's taking Murray State.
And you should too.
Yeah, you think? All right. Bam. There it is. Murray State.
You should too.
See how easy that was? All right. So I've got 2 12s against and 2 5s advancing there. Mississippi State, you're taking them as well. I like Mississippi State as well. Who was I talking to? I was talking to Pat Bradley from ESPNU Radio.
Okay.
And we were talking about it.
Good. I think they're good.
He was more on the lines of them being like a dark horse than like a real big fanfare type thing.
I agree. They could win 2 games in the tournament. I like them. North Carolina will play against Iona, 9:20 Eastern.
What's the spread on that?
The highest total on the board of any game, 166 points. Here's why. North Carolina is usually deadly in round 1. They cover a lot in the first round. They usually put up a ton of points. This is the 17th time they've been a number 1 seed. Iona has a 10-game winning streak, but they were 17-15 on the season. Yikes. They do not belong in this tournament. I'm going to lay 23 points. I'm going to take North Carolina in this one. And then after that, you got to really be careful with them because people start to think that because they covered that first big line, they end up falling in the next one. North Carolina probably wins by like 40, Howard, in this one. They're going to crush Iona.
Listen, I'm fine with that. I'm fine. As a New Yorker, I know a lot of people who went to Iona, so I'm good with them losing.
Yeah.
Next one up, VCU.
Good game here.
Yeah, 8-9 seed. This is a good one, very, very much so.
Yeah.
I believe VCU. It's a small spread though, and they're favorite.
It is. I'm gonna take VCU in this game. I don't feel great about it. I think the under is also in play at 126.5 points. UCF is a ball control tempo type team. They also have the largest man in like the history of college basketball. His name is Taco Fall. I've watched him play for the last couple of years, and he can take over a game on the inside. He's a great shot blocker. Usually he's like a 14-point a game, 7 rebound, 5 block type player. I'm happy to see him in the tournament. He's going to finally get to be on a national stage. I don't know what kind of NBA player he will be or anything like that. He only started playing basketball, I think, in the last 10 years. So, but Virginia Commonwealth is a very well-schooled tournament team. They've made deep runs before. I think this has a chance to be one of the most exciting games to start off in the tournament. I think it'll be a good one. I'll lean toward taking VCU plus the point, but not a strong opinion on that one.
Okay. I can go with that. I can dig that. Sounds fine by me.
Next one is an underdog.
Ohio State. You're going to take Ohio State over Iowa State? What's the spread?
I am. It's 5.5. Iowa State has not looked good all year long. I'm not sure how they're even a 6 seed, to be honest with you. They struggled down the stretch. They did not have a great February and March. I don't love Ohio State either, and I think that once they win this game, or if they win this game, they get knocked out in the next round. But I am going to take the 5.5 points here with Ohio State, and there's no question about it in my mind. That's a definite play for me.
Okay. All right. Wow. Are you saying I need to go back to my brackets?
I mean, you could still take Iowa State to win. It would not surprise me at all if Ohio State wins. This is one of those games like we talked about on Thursday, how I play that out where you'll know right away game. This is one of those two. Iowa State, you cannot figure them out. They are very tough. Sometimes they look great. They'll win by 20. Sometimes they lose at home by 20. I don't know which team is going to show up, so I'll go on the side of give me the points of this one, and that's why I'll take Ohio State. All
right, last game of the slate here. St. Louis at a 13 seed against Virginia Tech, number 4 seed. I don't have the spread in front of me on that one here, but I know in my brackets.
10.5, yeah.
In my brackets, I went St. Louis.
You did?
Yeah,
based on what?
Little tournament experience there. Listen, I don't have I don't have a strong lean on the game here. Again, when you're filling out those brackets and you're trying to make some certain things happen, when everybody starts saying Hokies, 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 Hokies.
Yeah, see now. Look, there's certainly a chance St. Louis can cover the spread. I will take Virginia. I will take Virginia Tech here minus the 10.5 points. But I will say that the first thing that I check when I'm picking this, especially when I want to pick an upset, is I check the other team. I check the free throw percentage, and they're the worst free throw shooting team in the NCAA tournament in St. Louis. Shoot 59% from the field. You get into a late game situation, Howard, or even an overtime situation that it wouldn't bode well for them. Now, look, maybe they wipe the floor with Virginia Tech. Remember, Virginia Tech plays against the good teams, North Carolina and Duke and FSU all season long, and they've held their own against those teams too. I think maybe FSU has taken a little bit of a step up, close to or above Virginia Tech, but I certainly could not take St. Louis in a bracket, and I'll lay the 10.5 points in this game.
All right. Well, there you go. That's gonna cover the rest of the tournament for you. Your favorite one.
I take Buffalo, whoever they end up playing. I like Buffalo a lot in this tournament. Some people, I've mentioned that to somebody, and they said, no, you haven't watched the MAC as much as you should have this year. They really didn't blow teams out. I'm like, what do you mean? They won by 30, 30, 20, 30, 30. I mean, I think Buffalo is one of my favorite sleepers in this thing. So I'm gonna take them, whoever they end up playing.
Okay.
In the play-in game tonight, I guess they're going on, right? Oh, we didn't do Georgia State Houston. We missed one. I'll take Georgia State also minus the points. So in review, the under.
Whoa, you're gonna take Georgia State with the points?
No, Houston. I'm sorry, minus.
Oh, okay, all right.
So in review, the underdogs that I have in the Friday games are Northern Kentucky plus 13.5.
Mm-hmm.
UC Irvine plus 4.5.
Okay.
And VCU plus the point, and Ohio State plus 5.5 points. So those are the underdogs that I'll go with. So not quite as many as Thursday, but still a handful.
All right. Beautiful. Beautiful. Then there you go. Then that's going to do it for us here on the Friday night slate here for the Wager Alarm live stream. Again, guys, don't want to miss out on Friday night's show. I know you're going to be watching your basketball games, but you might as well tune in for us for another half hour. Why? Cy Young, MVP, MLB player props. You're going to want to get in on this now, right before the season starts. So for Craig Mish, I'm Howard Bender. Big thanks to John and Pemba for our production here, and we'll catch you next time.